All right, let's go ahead and call this meeting to order. Let's all rise for the Pledge of Allegiance. Doing roll call, we have all members present. Do we have any public comment? All right, hearing none, we'll move on to the committee meeting items. We've got a lot to cover tonight, so I just want to remind everyone, let's try to stay on topic and on point. And I've got a few items I was hoping to maybe add at the end if we've got a little time as well. So moving on to E1, City Council agenda request from Carol Hoffman and Kurt Hardy.
Good evening, Mayor. We do have an agenda request from those you mentioned. I believe they are here this evening, and so they can come up and speak on behalf of their item request, please.
And if you could just state your name and address there for the record.
My name is Carol Hoffman. Oh, it moves, sorry. I live at 101 3rd Avenue Northwest. This is Kurt Hardy, same address.
Okay. And what was your agenda request?
We received a, do you have that with you? We received a letter from the city regarding a vehicle improperly parked. And after talking with our neighbors, we're finding out that we're kind of a small section of the neighborhood that got pegged by, or that were targeted, let me say that, I'm sorry, regarding section 227-8-B as in boy for storage and parking restrictions. Having looked at this ordinance numerous times, just as Kurt has, I understand the ordinance and that we want to keep our city clean, but in the same respect, this is a very small section of the city that was targeted by one, from what I understand, one person. And it just so happens they're the four of us that sit on one corner of 3rd and Main and 4th and Main. You better take it because I'm already getting mad.
It really is a targeted situation, unless somebody can prove to me that it's not a target. As far as having more citations or more complaints around our area, because we all talk to kind of each other, so we're the 1, 2, 3 right there. So it's your community-based or your citizen-based complaint system, it doesn't work. Okay, that one person targeted us and made us spend thousands of dollars to put in a parking pad.
It would cost us all thousands of dollars to put in additional parking pads.
Which, if it was the city,
I think
fine.
if I
But
could
you're
just have
talking
you-
one individual that can do this, and
Right.
that's wrong.
If I could just kind of have you maybe, because all we had to work on was that it was 227 of the ordinance was what.
Oh, okay.
So we don't, so if you could kind of explain what, and I think we're all in the same boat here. So if you can kind of explain to us what the situation is,
Okay,
that
so
would help.
the ordinance states all motorized vehicles and units shall be parked, oh. Can I finish reading that, please? So on the letter that we received, it says the ordinance description, all motorized vehicles and units shall be parked or stored on impervious surface. The impervious surface area shall be continuous surface no smaller than the entire footprint of the vehicle or unit. Please read the details below carefully. Action needed, vehicle needs to be moved to the impervious surface. They gave us less than a week to do this. But when you look at the rest of the letter that was sent out,
And what type of vehicle is it that you have?
he has,
It's my 2008 Dodge pickup,
Oh, it's a-
And
a
it's-
ve-
which
car,
I have
okay.
hooked to my pontoon boat.
so the
Almost continuously.
so the boat is parked on gravel 5, or class 5, and it's a small section that his truck is parked on because that's an area that the snow gets built up on every year. it's a waste of time to spend $300 every year to get grass to grow on there. And the fact that it's parked off the side, and licensed, current tabs, if you wanted to check, it's insured, versus a lot of the cars within a 6-block radius that are not licensed or tabbed, that are parked on gravel and parked on dirt, and, you know, there's grass and
Cars that aren't tagged.
cars that aren't tagged that are in need of a lot of repair. And this one complaint, like we said, targeted 4 of us that, or 3 of us that just happen to probably be within earshot of her or them, their home. And if it's who we think it is, we're thinking that they might be renters. And if it's that much of an eyesore, then more than one person would have called us out on it.
Yeah, and I mean, the complaint-based is not a perfect system, but it's, the alternative is that we have someone from the city drive around and look for items to go pick on people about. So that's, well, and so
They
that's,
would have picked that up right away.
they would have picked that out a long time ago, yeah, so.
Has the right to call me to spend thousands of dollars.
Right.
No, and I understand the frustration, but it's,
Well,
it's,
well, and that's,
I got some.
and that's
some other
fine. You know, if Isanti's got the money to be doing that kind of thing, then within a 6-block radius of my home on 3rd and Main, there's 3 to, what, 13 houses that probably didn't fall into that?
oh, right, yeah, no, and
And none of-
I
and
agree, I
none
mean,
of-
you wanna
and none
treat
of-
your neighbor how you wanna be treated, right? So,
Well,
so I mean, I think,
I want it to
I
be
wouldn't go
fair.
out, I wouldn't ever go out and complain about anybody's stuff, cause that's not, I don't wanna be complained about it myself, so,
It's the person that did it.
right, right.
Okay?
Just-
They should not have, whoever it is, should not have that right to cost another person.
Well, I'm gonna kind of give you a couple things. First of all, as I was on city council, I got tagged for having a vehicle parked on the grass that sat there for one day, even though I was on city council. Wasn't happy about it, but I had to move it. I had a bunch of family over, and I had to move the vehicle off to the side so everybody could get in there without parking in the street. Second of all, it isn't really, I don't want to say it's not our ordinance, but it's driven by the EPA. And, and trust me, I wasn't happy when I got tagged for this. So I did a lot of digging into it. And it's forced upon us by the EPA for any contaminants leaking into the ground source, which is the water table. And it's under the Wellhead Protection Act. That isn't just the city of Isani that has this. Every city has that. If they don't have that, they lose a lot of revenue. Trust me, I feel your pain. When I built my new house, I spent $8,000 to put an apron on the side of my garage so I could park my company truck on it. So I didn't have this issue. I agree with you to a certain extent, but when now you force it into the health and welfare of not just you, but every resident in the city of Isani, any oil or gas that leaches into the ground will get to the water source. And that could affect somebody 20 miles from here, not just in the city of Isani, but down the road.
Agreed.
That's why that is in effect. I feel for you. I totally understand what you're saying. I mean, as of this point, there is no fines being addressed. The only thing I can suggest to you is to get it parked onto the impervious surface so that we don't have that issue. By call complaints, trust me, when they used to drive around, we paid a guy to drive around all day long, that's all he did. Go out and measure grass, go out and check to make sure somebody didn't have a boat parked in their backyard that had a motor on it. That cost the city a lot of money. I was never in favor of that. I think, like Mayor Gordon has said, that it being a complaint-driven, there's a lot more leeway in that. There again, if you have a neighbor, and I agree with Mayor Gordon, I treat my neighbors the way I want to be treated. If I want to be treated like a piece of crap, I'm going to treat them like one. But if I show them respect, I expect the same back from them. And I can drive around to 1,000 houses. I could be calling the city every day on properties that are not in compliance. But I am not that person.
So, with that said, I understand the EPA aspect of it, and it makes sense, I get it. But the way this is written, or the way it's driven, is that this one complaint is targeted to 3 houses on one corner. And within that corner, go out to Heritage, go down to, 2 blocks down this way, go out to Whiskey and go out to 5. None of those other houses got complaints. And you know what? Like I said, I get the EPA aspect of it and the leakage and all of that kind of stuff. I understand that. But if that's going to be the case, then all of these other people in this area need to be tagged. And I don't want to be that person that does it, but I also know that I'm not going to be that person that's going to spend $5,000 to $8,000 on a project that I had not budgeted for because somebody's a little got their feathers in a ruffle, and they're not complaining on everybody else that have vehicles that are leaking into the soil, that are not being taken care of, and that are not maintained. And 2 blocks over, there's a house that's got 2 of them sitting there, but yet I'm expected to,
Spend thousands of
yeah,
dollars.
you know what, I work EMS. I work,
guess you're not
I work
expected. You have a
70 hours a
choice.
week to
You have a
make,
choice to spend that money or not. You can park in the driveway. If
Okay.
you have too many vehicles for your existing driveway, then you need to make a change.
okay, so
That's
it's
not your
just us.
neighbor's fault.
No, it's not. You're correct. We have 3 vehicles between the 2 of us. We have a truck for the boat, we have my car and his car, and we have a boat.
You have a
I
garage.
think,
I have a 2-car garage.
You fit
I
2
think-
cars in it,
Yeah, my car and his car.
so you only got one in the driveway then and a boat?
Well, yeah, but come wintertime, you know what? The boat's still gonna sit there on the side. I can't, where am I gonna shovel my snow?
I think the best solution would be a Class 5, just adding on Class 5. It's
already done that.
fairly cheap.
That's-
That's not impervious surface.
That's not in the code.
That's not in the code.
I thought it was.
No, it's not.
Class
That's
5 is
in-
not
Asphalt
impervious
or
surface.
It's an
concrete.
improved
Really?
surface,
Yeah.
not an impervious surface.
Impervious means water and stuff can't,
So
Okay.
I guess going
liquids
forward,
can't leak through it into the ground.
I want to address you.
What happens to that oil when it rains? I've always
It
wondered
washes
that.
right off.
Right down into the
Yeah,
sewer
if
system.
it's
into
on my
the
driveway,
storm
it's gonna
system,
read-
And
into
it
the
goes in
run
the
river.
storm pond,
Or a
not
storm
in, not
pond,
into the well protection.
which it would
And
still
that
be
would still
easier to
be
get
an
into the
illicit
water system than if it
discharge.
just went on the ground. I don't know,
I just want to say that I was in the military. I got play, no, I got to play by the rules, and I don't mind playing by the rules. I just moved in March. And then you get this stuff thrown at you where some individual can cost you thousands of dollars, which isn't right.
I don't disagree with you, but I will tell you this. We do not hear of every complaint or anything that that they go out and write up a complaint about. We don't hear about it until it comes to this point. I mean, we don't go out and call the police department every day.
Travis has.
Yeah, but I mean, Travis gets that, but he deals with that internally, and it doesn't get to us till they come in front of us.
Right.
And I do want you to
Travis could be
understand.
a very busy person.
Yes, because with the way that it's been,
I am the guy. I will be the most hated guy in.
right, and I will be the most hated woman too, because I will go around and I will make an address and pictures and send it to all of you, and I'll send it to you, Travis, too. I'm really sorry. But I understand the part of the groundwater, I get it. Oil comes from the ground too.
And
If the
that's
oil
another-
drips on the,
Just a minute. That's another thing is the code itself never says anything about the oil stuff. Common sense to me, you want to stop the oil. I get that, okay? Only thing in here says about weeds growing up through it. And to me, it was just so stupid to have that into it, but not the dripping oil.
Ms. Wood has put a lot of time into cleaning a lot of language in a lot of our, of these areas. She has spent hours on hours and hours removing language that isn't necessarily there. And there's a lot of things she doesn't catch until it gets brought up to her. I mean, believe it or not, but I know she spent hours and hours on this. She's very diligent about that.
because if the
And
grass
things were
is an
written
issue,
up-
then I might as well,
But
get
there's
rid of my
been things that
sidewalk.
were written in there that aren't necessarily needed in there, and when it comes to her attention, she drags it out. Yes, Stephanie?
It is in the stormwater ordinance. There is a section about illicit discharges, and that is specifically stated about why that is.
Okay.
She's-
Like I said, I understand the EPA aspect of it, I really do. But what I'm getting at is that why is it that one neighbor can inflict this much cost paying on everybody else?
Because the alternative is that we have our code enforcement officer go around and from the city enforce it. That's the only alternative. It's, yeah.
Why don't we have multiple complaints before something gets done?
Because according to the,
One person gets taken out of the equation. If you have 2 complaints or 3 complaints, whatever number you want to stick on it, if you have 3 people complaining, you know, then to try to get 3 or 4 people or whatever you want to do to try and
That's not,
get it done, somebody's going to say, no, we're not going to do that.
that's not fair to that one taxpayer.
What do you mean?
He's paying taxes or she's paying taxes to live across the street from you or wherever. If their property value is affected by someone, stuff in their yard across the street, they can call and complain. Regardless of the,
Money that they put into their account and trying to
no,
get dressed up.
regardless of what your house looks like or whatever,
You gotta be kidding me.
you can't wait for 4 people to complain.
Sure you can.
yeah, I could. Because you know what?
This is
That
a
one
small
person,
town.
that one person,
I think 2 is fair, because if you have one neighbor that for some reason you rubbed wrong,
Doesn't like
or
you.
just doesn't like anybody on
The
the whole
whole-
block, I can see
So-
them doing
The
So
whole
what they
here's-
basis,
did.
though,
So
is
can-
they are not abiding by the ordinance.
And
Go
it
ahead,
is-
Stephanie.
So why would you need to wait for 2 people to complain that someone isn't abiding by the ordinance?
And complaints are often anonymous, so we don't know where people are living, and we don't know where they're coming from. So it's hard to, somebody could have their friend put a complaint in, so I don't think we're solving any issues by having more people complain.
I think the whole ordinance is bogus myself. I mean, if you can't.
I thought that we had,
When you have money invested into property and pay property taxes, then I'll listen to you when you say that.
Okay.
they don't. Because there was just a contrary of terms here. You're saying if that one taxpayer
Has
deems
just
my.
as much right as
Has
the next
just as much
taxpayer.
right.
He has a much right to complain all he
To
wants
make a
to.
complaint
But
about
if
an
nobody
ordinance
else complains, then
infraction.
it's not really a problem.
Right, and this one person, person A, is inflicting anywhere from 3 to, what would it cost to do yours? $10,000? $15,000 to concrete? Or I would personally put concrete down on mine because I have a concrete driveway. So you're telling me that person A can say, you know what, I don't like the way their property looks. I'm gonna,
It
I'm
has
gonna,
nothing to do with maybe looks. It has to do with. if
obviously
there's
it
a-
does, because.
If there's a code infraction, and that's the the baseline right here. Is there a
well,
code
if-
infraction?
Yeah, okay.
That's,
Well, I'm sorry,
That's-
Travis, to
that's
throw
the
you under the
whole
bus here.
deal.
Then Travis's team is gonna be spending a lot of time going about all these complaints that we're gonna start issuing. Because if somebody's gonna tag me to spend another $5,000 to $10,000
no one's
in my,
forcing you to spend that money.
no, they're
You
not.
can park
but
on
you
your
know,
driveway.
I don't have room on my driveway because I've chosen to live in Isanti to have a big enough driveway where I can park my stuff and park my boat on the side. Why am I gonna be penalized that I can't park my truck, or his truck, sorry, next to my driveway that I'm not gonna be spending money to upgrade or fix anytime soon anyways? I mean, until his truck was parked there, I wasn't putting grass seed down. Actually, I think it looks a whole lot better with his truck covering it than it does without his truck there.
Josie, I have a question for you. If they decide not to comply with this, what happens next?
That'll be a question for Travis, but
Okay. Travis?
Well, according to this, it says that we get misdemeanor citations requiring a court appearance. If this violation has not been resolved by the due date above, which they only gave us a week.
I thought we had changed the ordinance sometime back where if they were so far off the driveway that it was, and it was, I think, a year or two ago, maybe, something like that, that there was a distance that if they were partially on the driveway, that was even acceptable. Do you remember anything like that at all, or?
There is something written about a 10-foot away from the garage.
Is that, okay, I thought there was something about from the driveway, that there was a certain acceptable distance that we were allowing, because we didn't want things parked in the.
There's a change for during the winter time.
Yeah, we allow for.
Was that what it
winter
was during the
trailers,
winter time?
For trailers and non-motorized.
For snowmobile
And when your
trailers.
ground is frozen, your boat sitting there and your truck sitting there isn't an issue. It's only during the summertime.
Right, but
Which,
you know what?
laugh,
It's gonna
but
leak
the
during
ground
the
is
winter.
frozen, and
It's gonna
that's-
leak during the winter.
Are we able to make changes like that? I mean, does the EPA, I mean, they may have guidelines and suggestions, and they're probably gonna wanna fine us on MS4 and all that kind of stuff, I suppose, if we don't
Yes.
have these rules and ordinances in place?
Correct, our ordinance is created based upon what we're required to have by the MPCA.
Okay. Do we set the penalty for what the breaking the ordinance is?
As far as the misdemeanor, yes, because that's the type of fine, or the type of code enforcement we are choosing to do here, so.
So we used to, just for reference to council, before code enforcement went over to PD, we did have it under community development, and it was by admin citation. So it was set by council of how to do the penalty for all of our city code chapters.
And I thought class 5, like you, I thought was impervious surface. We count it as impervious
it
surface
is,
when
I
we're talking
thought.
about our 40% rule, right? So, I
Right.
mean, it's impervious surface in some cases when we want to allow less, and it's
It's an
not
improved-
impervious surface in cases like this,
It's an
or?
improved surface,
Okay.
and it has been allowed by city council to permit it in some instances. For example, that My Jungle Gym
Mm-hmm.
had made a request for their parking space, and that was city council approved, not allowed by city code, but council did approve it.
So could we
That
potentially
might be
do,
what you remember.
could we
Okay.
potentially do the same thing for them then, for a class 5? I mean, I'm for the citizens on this, because if you look at Old Isani, most of us have dirt driveways. So we'd all be out of compliance. You could literally tag my whole neighborhood, a lot of George's neighborhood. and
800 feet of driveway.
I can't, yeah, I can't
We-
believe that's
we
a
could
thing.
If you park on it.
Right,
You
right.
can have it to drive from the street to your
Right.
garage and back. That's fine, but you can't park on it.
Yeah.
That is grandfathered in, so we don't require people to make changes if it's already improved that way, which is why My Jungle Gym was allowed, was because it was previously, had set precedent that for many years it was a Class 5 parking area. So the issue is making an allowance for one driveway
but they
opens a
actually
can of
came in.
words for, we could have everybody come in here the
Right.
next week, so.
And I-
Well,
It's up to you.
unfortunately, because of how it's written and being targeted in our small little group here, I'm really sorry to throw you underneath the bus, Travis, but we'll be making complaints on everybody then. Because I refuse to be paying $5,000 to $10,000 to put an addition onto my driveway that the city gets to reap the benefits from taxes because it's an improvement. And it's all because
Of a single individual.
one single individual.
I'd like to look into it more. I would like staff to supply the exact fines and regulations that, as a city, we have to abide by, and what the penalties are if, instead of going with a concrete or an asphalt surface, we go with Class 5. So if somebody wants to put some Class 5 up next to their garage, put their extra vehicle, I'd like to see what's involved exactly. I'd like to see it in writing and paper.
We do allow Class 5 for non-motorized vehicles, so,
And why can't we do it for motorized?
because of the oil leaking.
I would like to see that, and I'd like to see state statute, EPA statute, whatever. I'd like to look into that. And the other thing I think we need to do is, when we have a violation over $1,000 like this, that there can't be a time restraint on it. They should at least have enough time, like these people did, to come in front of council and talk to us about it. To have a deadline that quick on that much money for anybody is a huge burden.
Fine isn't
Fine is not
$1,000.
$1,000.
No, okay, not a fine, but the improvement.
The improvement
to-
costs more
I
than
mean,
that.
the improvement to
To correct the issue.
to correct the situation is over $1,000.
Right.
Maybe they should have a little more time instead of, how much time did you have from the date you got the letter?
They said from like the.
A week.
Well, they did not.
Yeah.
It's a
that-
week to move it onto impervious surface, not a week to spend money buying
Okay,
a
so it's
driveway.
their choice, I get it, I
Yeah,
get
the
it.
city is not gonna force them to pour a concrete slab.
I guess.
Not part of the.
Would it be possible instead of a misdemeanor to look into like more of a fine? Because say if there's a $250 fine, for example, and they decide they want to park there for a fine, and you can use that $250 to do something in the city for improvement on something else. You know, is there a way to, you know, do a fine for a year and then they can decide? Or, I mean, there's got to be a way to kind of walk around that, because I think that whole rule is kind of BS. It's not, we're not Edina. The people move up here to be out of the cities, not to be overregulated.
And part of the change from administrative citations to misdemeanors was to lessen the financial burden on the city from abatement. So before you do it, let's just say we cite them administratively, they don't want to move their car, it's happened, we have to abate it, go to council, you have to pay for a tow company to go tow it, bring it somewhere, and that, all those fees are incurred by the city. So by going through how we've been doing stuff, and I don't have my numbers as what we do, but I would assume we've written maybe 4 or 5 citations in 1 year for any zoning code violation. We get compliance, right? Now, let's just say that they decide not to move it and we did cite them. Now the court can make them move it, and it's the burden for the abatement doesn't land on the city's financial burden. So that was the biggest change. Because as we, it's not just us, then it goes down to Mike, because then Mike puts on their taxes as far as what the abatement cost, and sometimes we never recover it. So the recommendation we got from our prosecutor was to go with criminal citations if we're gonna do it, so that the court can do the abatement rather than the city.
I will concur with him. We did have, when the staff was doing here, it was a lot of staff time spent on each property, and that was just the direction that we went. But it really did cost, a lot of notifications were sent, a lot of, more so than what, because we weren't able to get as good of compliance by someone who is not in the enforcement realm.
I thought there was
So
some
with that
rules that
said-
allow us to have parking in the backyard as long as it was fenced in. Is there something like that we had changed to a couple years ago?
Yeah, it still
But it
has to
still
be-
has to be
if it's
non-motorized,
Non-motorized, if it's motorized, it has to
Okay.
be on an impervious.
or it has to be on a trailer.
No,
Then the
That-
trailer has to be on
not
an
had-
impervious.
I mean,
Yeah,
it could it be
have a snowmobile
snowmobiles
Sitting on it, sitting all summer long.
on a trailer?
Yeah, it cannot have any kind of
Okay.
oil and gas in it. Now, Luke, to go to your question, it's not comparing to Edina here. I want you to clarify this. This is an EPA ruling that goes throughout every state in the United States. It isn't just the state of Minnesota, it isn't just the city of Isani, it's every city to do with the,
That
So just
may be
cities.
over a
So why
certain
don't counties have to
population,
follow
too.
that?
because counties.
It's the
It's
same
a-
water
it's- no, it's
table.
not.
Townships,
Townships don't either,
It's the
because I
same
lived
water
in a
table
township
2
before
miles
this,
outside of town.
and they didn't enforce it at all.
Townships aren't getting funding and aren't regulated as much from the EPA as the city is. We have wells that are governed by the EPA.
Sure.
And if we do not follow that, we get fined. And I'll tell you what, their driveway would be cheap compared to our fines. So we have to abide by those regulations.
Just like we have to get approval to add another well. We can't just do it. We gotta ask the state to do it.
but
It's
that's from a
based on
So-
population density is how, so
Is
townships.
5,000
I'm gonna
or
go
something
back
like
to
that as a number?
5,000, yes.
I'd like to go back to Josie's comment about the amount of staff time and energy that it took. If you, now mind you, I'm just gonna go by the pictures that we've taken, and we've got over a dozen pictures just within our 6-block radius. How many do you guys have? Okay.
And what we're trying to do is find a
I get
loophole
that.
here
Yeah.
for
So
you.
what-
You do have to
We're
realize-
trying to help
So
you.
what I'm looking at is, I understand that it's an EPA issue, and I get that. But how much staff is it gonna cost Isanti, and how much is it gonna add to my tax base? Because we're gonna have to have all these people, if I put in a driveway to accommodate another vehicle, or to accommodate additional toys that I would like to have, because they're gas-powered and not electric, and don't get me started on that one. The amount of money and time that the city is gonna have to pay to have somebody come out and start regulating all of this, and tagging people and citationing them, or writing up citations for them, as well as the amount of time that it's gonna take Travis. I don't know, if I was Travis, I'd be saying, you know what, screw you guys, I'm done. I'm not gonna be sitting here doing this all day long, because I don't have time to. I have other things that are more important. And is the city of Isanti, so say I concrete my driveway, or even asphalt it. Say these guys who've already spent probably well over $30,000 improving their lot, put in another addition to their driveway. Okay, so now their taxes are going from $2,500 up to $3,500 a year, all because of one citizen. Now I'm paying an extra $150 a month, as well as paying the amount of money to get a driveway or something put in there so that I can accommodate the lifestyle that I would like to lead with toys in a small community. And for somebody to say, well, then you should probably move. Well, you know what? I kind of like my small little house in Isanti. I chose it for a few reasons. And for everybody to come back here and say, you know what, you're going to have to do this and you're going to have to do that because of this and that, and spend $3,500 on a corner city lot in the middle of downtown Isanti for taxes that I don't get to reap any benefit for, you know what, for people looking to move into Isanti and they see that that's what our tax rate is, they're going to say, screw you guys, I'm not going to do it. You know, I don't know how many people actually look at what their tax rates are when they're looking at houses these days, but me as a single woman, I did.
Did you look at the city's portion? Or are you looking at the whole?
I'm looking at what I pay.
Let's try to stay on topic here, and I appreciate what you guys are saying. And what we're trying to do is and I'm with George, that I would like to look into this more. And
Yes.
Me as
I am
well.
all for letting you use your property as you see fit. You know, that is
Right.
something that's extremely important to me. But at the same time, we may be hampered by what the EPA or the DNR will allow us to do at the same time. So we are not at the top of the food chain here in some circumstances. But with what we can do, I would love to look into seeing what we can do and what is within our purview to do. So,
One thing you have to keep in mind, we cannot take action on this because it's gotta be coming to the council.
right.
my
And like I said,
suggestion
today
is-
we did not have a whole lot of information to work from. All we knew was that you guys had a complaint and it had to do with section 227. We didn't even know, it was 8B or the specifics or anything like that. So this is just kind of, if you can look at it as a sort of a first step of this conversation. It's a process that we'll have to dig into further and that we'll have to do some research, but we'll do whatever we can do within our power, at least I will, to try to, because you're not the only ones that have this issue. And like you said, you could go around the neighborhood and see all these people are doing it. So I've always been arguing that if we're doing that in reality, and this is what we're actually doing in practice, in real life, then we should make the ordinance match real life, not real life match the ordinance, right? So that's where I stand on it, and I'm with George that I would like to bring it back maybe, I don't know if we can send it to not this council, but the next council meeting, or next committee of the whole, and take a look at it further and see if there is something that we can do about that situation.
And I agree, this has been a huge issue for me, even just campaigning, because people live here to live in a small-town community, not to live somewhere where they feel like the government rules their lives. So that has been an issue for me too, with the parking thing, so I would love to look into that as well.
So going,
My only
go ahead.
focus on this thing, and the reason why I'm standing here is that individual has too much power to cost people money.
Well, let us look at that too, because that is a good, your point about maybe we can do something with multiple complaints. I like the idea, and I think, yeah, I mean, that makes a lot more sense than just letting one person complain. I mean, if one person has a bad day, then you're right, that person does have probably too much pull, but I mean, we gotta balance that with Dan's perspective too on that, and you're right, we do have an obligation to make sure that the city doesn't go to hell in a handbasket and that we got crap all over the place, and Dan's right, that,
One tax person's
That-
opinion matters,
Right.
just like yours does, as you
Right.
guys are up here today.
I
So does
understand.
the complaintee.
I get that, and I want to make sure that complaintee is also not a renter of the city and a citizen that pays the taxes in the city. And yes, I know it's an anonymous situation, but there's got to be some kind of a way to tell the,
Kind of a buffer.
you know, if there's like a barcode or something that can be assigned to each complaint so that there's maybe only one person or some kind of a system that says, okay, here's this complaint that came in, here's the barcode that is attached to it, so that, A, we know that this person lives in the city of Isanti, and not having,
I mean, for one thing, do we have to allow anonymous complaints? Because that seems to me like if you don't have the guts to put your name on it, that you shouldn't get to complain.
Well, and
I
even
agree.
if they put their name on it, it's private data. That's a really weird thing in chapter 13, that we can't tell you who complained on you.
Well, that's
I-
fine.
Which is weird.
Yeah, right,
I
but,
don't care.
but we at the city could know that it was only one person that complained, right?
Yeah, we would know as far as how many complaints we've got
Right,
on it.
so
Yeah,
we,
I
we
don't-
could say we don't take.
Yeah,
But
I don't
the one thing I'd
need
like to say
know-
about the biggest complaints that, you know, I receive a lot of complaints from people who get letters or whatnot, because, you know, code enforcement's under us. The biggest complaint I get is from the people who are complaining, and why are we not doing our job? Because I put in this complaint last month, and we take 2-3 months before we actually resolve a problem. So I bet you I get 10 to 1 on people, the complainee, your neighbor complain, the people that complain versus the people that actually get the letters, because we get mostly compliance on the letters towards the ordinances.
So going forward then, can we park the truck in front of the boat so that we don't have to hook it up every time to go boating? Or do we still need to move it out onto the driveway all the time? And I mean, come wintertime, if you have a vehicle that's parked in previous services and it's the wintertime and you don't have to worry about the oil leakage, well, that's kind of a misnomer because last time I checked, we have this thing in the springtime called thawing, and if it's on the ground in a solid form come April, it's gonna thaw and seep into the ground. So it would be something that would have to be done year-round.
Right, and
If-
so maybe,
if-
maybe
if
there
we're
is something
doing-
that we can do that would,
Right.
yeah. So,
And it's, like I said, I don't want to cause other people this kind of money. And for Mr. Collision here to say that maybe I need to look at changing my, my recreations of having, you know, what toys I want to keep and what I don't want to
Never
keep.
said that.
Well,
I
it was
said-
implied.
No, it wasn't. I implied, if, I was getting at, if you have, you said you had 3 vehicles in a boat. If you have a 2-car garage, you say you could fit 2 in there, then, to me, I would think the truck would be able to fit in the driveway. The
It
boat
does,
obviously is
but we
fine.
can't-
We
So,
can't get the car, we can barely get the car out.
that's what I was getting at. So,
So the only thing I could suggest, if they had a week to reply to this letter, can we extend that so they don't have any worries for 30 days till we can go over this, Travis?
Well, it's been in compliance, so that complaint has been closed.
Well, right now, the truck is parked at the end of the driveway, and we've had a couple people comment that we're blocking the sidewalk.
We're not.
I have.
Well, I mean, I'm not blocking it.
No, but I
I'm this
mean-
far away from the sidewalk, so I'm not blocking it.
Well,
so right now, the complaint's closed, it's done. So you don't have anything to worry about right now.
We're gonna
But if I-
further
Unless-
address this issue.
Right.
I'm trying to get control over that person's power.
Sure.
That's all I want.
Well,
So we'll address this matter, and like you said, we cannot take action on it because of the form that it's in right now. It has to go through the council itself, even though we are the council. It sounds weird, but it's the way it's gotta be done. It's, so we're gonna further research into this and see what we can do to change some of this rulings or wordings and go from that point.
so up until that point and it's decided, are they allowed to park in their parking spots next to their garage? Is he allowed to park in his parking spot next to his garage? Are we allowed to park our truck next to our garage?
That would have to be a council decision, and then it'd have to have a memorandum or whatever, what would you call it, moratorium on that ordinance for this, everybody in the city, including businesses and
Right, the
residential.
way that city
Everybody,
code,
it'd be free for all, park on your grass.
city code states that you cannot park on the grass. So it's
There's
not
no grass
permitted if
there.
someone, if someone was to, I mean, council could change that code before or after research, really, that is, I mean, we could change it. That does take certain requirements like posting for 10 days, and we do have some laws that we have to follow on that. But
right now,
really, it's-
Travis, are all of those cases closed?
I can double check, but I pulled theirs up and it is, so I would assume so. if they were
Okay,
within
so unless there's
compliance
another
within those 10
complaint,
days.
you don't have anything else that you have to do, and if you, I mean, I'm not gonna tell you to break the rules, but I mean,
if another complaint comes in.
if another
it's
complaint
just a
comes
clock
in,
over.
then it would be something that we'd have to address again in the meantime, but we will look at it as soon as we possibly can, which would probably be August 1st.
Committee of the
I think.
whole, so it'd be
Well, could we move it to that council meeting?
on August 2nd.
Is it the second? Yeah,
We can collect as much information as we can by then.
okay.
That
I know
really,
that's not too long
that only
away, but-
gives us about a week because just when we have to publish the packet this next time.
Well, I think we're all pretty familiar with it anyway, so I think it shouldn't be
That'd
we
be
just
a
need a
lot
little
of
time to
discussion
formulate a
for-
discussion on it, but what'd you
Be
say?
a lot of discussion for a council agenda item.
Well, let's get it wrapped up in a hurry for these folks, though.
Thank
So.
you.
Thank you for
Appreciate your
coming in.
time.
Thank you.
And I believe you had another question before, and it's a little off topic, so I'm going against what I wanted this to stick to tonight, but later on in the council meeting tonight, we are changing, as long as it goes through the vote, that area of Main Street will be a school zone,
Yay, thank you.
and it should slow people down a little bit. Stop sign we couldn't quite get that done, but the school zone should slow people down, so.
Thank you.
So that was another one that I know we had talked about before. Yeah, you bet. Thank you guys for coming in. Moving on to E2, Rum River BMX mini split system discussion.
Yeah, good evening, Mayor and Council. So Rum River BMX had asked city staff if they could install a mini split air conditioning unit in the concession area at the Isani Indoor Arena. There's currently air conditioning in the area right now, but as I understand it, just with all the equipment in there from the concession stand, it doesn't really keep up and doesn't really cool the area efficiently. So Rum River BMX was seeking permission to purchase and have installed a mini split system. And Jay from Rum River BMX is here if you have any questions for him on the project.
Jay, what's in there now? Window unit?
Jay Boson, President, Rum River BMX, 101 Isani Parkway Northwest. Right now, the system that's installed does both concessions and the registration office. And over the years, we've grown, we've added more pizza ovens and hot dog warmers and general food warmers. And we've gone from staffing concessions with like 5 or 6 people to now we do like 7 or 8 people. So they're kind of packed in there like sardines.
What's in there for air conditioning now?
It's the same unit that's been installed from the beginning. It's
Is
just.
that a forced air furnace with an
Yeah.
AC?
Yep.
I'm not entirely sure.
Yeah,
Maybe more
it's
Matt's
a, it's a
area.
forced air AC that
Okay.
does both concessions and the office.
I would caution you on this. If you expanded that area, you need, I mean, you've expanded certain areas, partial, you know,
Well,
right?
it's, physical space hasn't changed. It's
Isn't it?
just more,
No.
more bodies throwing heat and more electronics that's thrown.
Okay, my suggestion would be to upgrade the AC unit, not put a mini split in. Mini splits are very expensive.
So,
Mini split is made for, you have an old style farmhouse, 2nd floor. You got no way of getting ductwork up there. That's what a mini split does.
right.
So, but if you have ductwork in there now, you, money-wise, would be to upgrade your AC. Go from, say, a 2-ton, you probably only have a 1.5 ton in there, very possible. I'd have to look at it, tell you the sizing, but you could go from a 1.5 ton to 2.5 ton. And you get that much more cooling, which removes that much more heat.
So-
That's how that works.
Yeah.
I just would say that a mini split would not be cost efficient for you.
Our board has discussed different options at length and had decided that the mini split would be the most effective for targeting that cooling specifically in concessions.
You could do a differential zone system as well.
There's lots of options. We're
One
just
thing about a
asking-
heat
we're
that you're
asking for-
dealing with there is you want a lot of blast.
Yeah.
At least to cool you down when you're working, like, that's, the mini split is.
Right, and then once
yeah.
they're done, they turn it off for the night.
Yeah.
It's not something that's gonna
Yeah,
be
right.
running 24 hours a
Yeah.
day. It's gonna be
You
running
just need it to
during
combat
the
all
shift.
that heat from that equipment that's coming at you, yeah.
So we're just looking for a green light we're gonna incur all the costs, we're gonna take care of all the maintenance, we're just looking for the green light to install what we've voted on as a board, so.
I'm all right with it as long as you guys are, and you guys are gonna take care of maintenance going forward, and.
Yep.
Yeah, sounds good to me.
I'm just, yeah, as long as you guys looked into it, it's good, yep.
All right.
If the consensus is to move forward, we are going to add that to tonight's city council agenda so they can move on it quickly and not have to wait the extra 2 weeks. And then they will have to pull any permits that are required, and they know that too.
Sounds perfect.
Yep.
Thank you.
Thanks, Jay. All right, moving on to E3, staging material request from business owner.
Good evening. You'll see in front of you a map photo from our GIS, which depicts the area where the staging request is from. The request is from Rockstead Relics and Wares. Amy and Eric Rockstead, who are here to answer any questions. They're starting construction on the parcel that they purchased from the city on their new commercial building. And because of the allowances for 0 setbacks on this parcel, they are using most of the space for building, constructing the building, and are asking for the ability to stage some of the rafters and other building materials across the street while they're constructing for about 30 days. Is that what you had?
So is that in the apartment lot then, or is that by the railroad tracks?
By the rail.
Okay. Yep.
Yes. You can see the
That
skinny,
city-owned?
That gravel lot there is the city-owned?
Believe
yes.
so.
The bottom,
That's where they were gonna put the memorial for the fallen.
And did you,
Yeah.
I actually have 0 problems if it's a city-owned property and the trusses are gonna fit in there and not cause any obstruction to the streets and traffic. You gotta do what you gotta do. I've been doing this my whole life, I get it.
The tight spot.
Is it the church? The church uses that for parking on Sundays, basically, is the only time it's really ever.
Yeah, but I'm not sure how far down the church.
they have
has.
their own parking area that's to the north, so
Okay.
the city owns the 2 southernmost parcels, the
Okay.
tiny one and then the longer one. And then the church owns to the north of that.
Okay, but I know it does fill up, I think, on, but, so you're gonna keep it to the south as far as you can, and, okay.
and how long did you anticipate it being there? Did you? Okay. Okay. I have
Yeah,
no
and I don't
problem
think
with
that
it.
takes up
I
a
got
whole
no
lot of
problem with
space
that.
anyway, really,
They gotta
right?
do it,
Yeah.
yeah.
That lot's getting filled and they don't have a lot of place to stage this
Yeah,
stuff, and I
right.
get it.
Right.
I mean,
Okay, yeah,
Yep,
perfect.
I got no problem with
Yep.
that.
Sounds good to me.
Thank you.
Just asked to make sure it's clean when you're all done.
Yeah,
Awesome. Thanks, guys.
thank you.
You bet. Moving on to E4, street banners for the Isani graduates discussion. And this was an item that I brought up and a request from a resident, actually. Pine City does this, and I know we had done a little bit of research. Do you guys remember what the cost was? And I know there's a picture attached here too, so you guys can kind of see what it looks like, but.
I don't have any exact costs, but in the cities that we reached out to, Rush City being one of them, the city has not paid or funded, what's that? Oh, it's Pine City, I'm sorry. The cities have not funded it. It was either a school district or an organization tied to the school district or of parents that funded it for maybe parents who couldn't afford it. But the city did use city resources of Public Works to install them.
And how big of a deal is it for, like, when they put up, flags for Flag Day and for the 4th, and, I mean, to hang a banner like that, I mean, how much of the Public Works time does that take up? And, if we're not paying for it and we're just saying, parents that would like to do it, are welcome to do it, and how much time would that take for them to put, I don't know how many.
I don't think it'd be a lot of time. I mean, it all depends on how many banners there are ultimately. I would imagine that you do all graduating students of the city of Isani, not just one district or whatever. So I think that would be pretty nominal. Depending where you're gonna put it, if you're gonna put it on Heritage, I think that we should ask the city or the county for approval, just in case they're not okay with it. It is their right of way. I'm not sure if they would have a say one way or another on that, but we'd want to vet that out. Unless,
Okay.
if you wanted to put it on Main Street, then it's just for the city. We do have brackets on some of those poles where we have the city banner or the black or blue banners that we have. So we could potentially put them on Main Street. All depends on where you'd like to put them.
Okay. Yeah, I mean, it was, like I said, a request from a resident, and she had said, if it was for my kids, I would have no problem paying for it myself, so I don't think it's something that,
I think that's minimal cost to have our
Yeah.
Public Works to go out and do it, as long as we can schedule it, they can do them. I don't wanna see them go out and put one up today and then a week later, go put another one up. I'd like to see them all scheduled out.
Yeah, I think we'd want to have a deadline where we'd have them all collected by such and such date, because they put the stairs in the back of a pickup truck and takes 2 guys, and they just go down, boom, 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 boom.
Yep, I don't have a problem with that. If they want to pay for the banners, and then.
Yeah, I think it's
when
kind of
they're
a
done,
nice,
they keep 'em.
nice way to say thanks to the school and to the kids for working hard and to congratulate them, so.
Yep.
Yep, I'm for it as well, as long as we're not having to pay for the banners ourselves.
Okay.
What street?
It'd have to be Main Street unless,
think-
if you can get county approval, you know.
Depends on if there's enough light
Yeah,
poles
right,
on
how many
Main
can you
Street.
fit? Yeah,
Yeah, I think
I mean, how
it's
many
possible we
students are
won't
we
have
talking?
enough poles on Main Street.
yeah, right.
It would have to be Main Street. I mean, I don't want to go deal with the county on that unless they want to go get, unless you want to put some time in seeing what the county's going to allow it, but.
And then they get, yeah, if there's.
Well, we don't know
then
if
you're-
it's
then you're
actually
talking-
within the right of way for the county or not, you said, right? So we would just have to check and see if it's,
Well, it
They
would
are
be
in
their
the right
right
of
of way. It's just a matter if they want to have a say on it, but it is
Okay.
their right of way, for sure. One thing I have seen, and I can't remember the community, I don't know if it was Malacca or somewhere, but I did see it on a fence line at like a park one time, so that's another option. We could put them somewhere else, doesn't have to be on a light pole.
I think Main Street's cooler anyways. I would
Yeah.
rather see it on Main Street personally.
you have more time to actually look at it
Yeah,
on Main
right,
Street too.
versus
and
driving it,
walking and,
yep.
yeah. Let's try it on Main Street here next spring and,
If we get too many, we can look at other options
yeah,
then.
right.
My recommendation is if we're going to move forward with something like that we should write and draft a policy for council to approve.
Yep.
Or to review and possibly approve, that listed out the logistics of that it would be funded by individuals, the dates of when the city would, accept them until, things like that.
Yep.
Sounds good.
Sounds good.
All right. Thanks, guys. Moving on to E5. So this one, so mayor and council office space at City Hall. So Councilman Heeman and I had a discussion a little while back when we weren't really sure what was happening with the city administrator position. And, I thought it was a great idea when he had brought it up, and I still do think it's a good idea. I think there's a lot of value in actually being present at City Hall. And there's things I think that you learn, just by being here that you might not know about otherwise. Even just having conversations where and I've been around where I've heard people kind of coming in at the front counter and they're talking and they're, paying their utility bill or they're doing something, but I mean, you learn things about what people think when you're here, so. So I think it's incredibly important, I think, for us to be present and to be around and, I'm proposing, I guess, that the corner office that previously had been the mayor's office would be changed to the council's office as kind of a shared workspace for the council. Maybe we could sign up and take, I could take Wednesdays and somebody else could take Tuesdays or something, something like that, where we each would have a day of the week, sort of, that we would have office hours if we wanted to use it. Not something that we would have to use by any means, but if you wanted access to it, you would have it. And have a place to, to meet with staff or meet with constituents or, storage space for your documents. We could get a file cabinet in there and, kind of keep all of our things in your own personal locked file cabinet drawer and just have a spot where we're present and able to help out. I think we've got a very important job to do as far as representing the residents of the city, and I think that it would make sense for us to have space to do it and to be present at the city hall, so.
Well, I'm gonna tell you right now, we removed somebody from office, and we said at that time, we did not need a council or mayor office in the city hall. Second of all, that office is being used by the building official.
By Matt.
And the building official needs an office as much as anybody else. And every other office is occupied by our department heads, which we're running very lean with staff. I think if we have to use something, if you have to have someplace to be in here, I think this council chambers has always been available for us to use, or the library, or the conference room. I do not want to see any more staff interruptions, no matter what it be. And a lot of times, even department heads have to schedule with other departments to make sure that they have the time to sit down and have their discussions. And for us to be in here and disrupt their day-to-day business, I don't think it's wise. I told the previous mayor, there was no reason for him to have an office in here. None.
I've never needed a reason.
No, and I have never had a reason to do it. And I feel if I want to be outreach to residents, there's no better place than for me to go visit them instead of them come chase me.
Or meet them for coffee, rendezvous,
Either
I've done that
coffee
several
or
times.
Go to their home and see what their issues are, or talk to me on the phone. My phone is available 24 hours a day, 7 days a week.
Right, but then you're still missing out on some of those conversations that happen that you just you aren't privy to
I
when you're
don't,
not here.
and I'll be honest with you, some of those conversations aren't my business, no matter what they are. If
Well,
they have a
it is our
problem-
business to represent the residents, and I
Okay,
think,
but if a
and I think to
resident-
undervalue
No,
our
I'm-
position so much that you say, well, we're just gonna
No.
put you wherever we could fit you. You know, the council chambers, I mean, we need,
No.
I think we need a workspace
You were the
that's a
first one to
professional
say that we did not need an office for any of us council members or the mayor when that time happened. You were the one that
Well,
brought that
there
up.
was a whole lot of things that
It
we're
doesn't
not-
matter,
we're not
and
allowed
I
to
don't
discuss
disagreed with that.
in regards to that conversation,
I
actually, because
don't
of
feel that that's
the situation that had
necessary.
arose. So, that it really isn't something that we can actually get into, and you know that, so
And
that's
I'm
not.
just still not saying-
Not
and I
my
even
fault or
told
your
him
fault
prior
or
to that.
anybody's up here fault, but
Would it be possible to put up, like, is there any room for a temporary smaller cubicle for something like that, to try it and see if it gets used? It seems like when I walk through there is quite a bit of room, not necessarily in the offices, but in the main area. Is there anywhere to put a smaller cubicle for stuff like that, maybe, to try?
We do have an open cubicle that is used by our city engineer, who is only here on Tuesdays, so we would
Okay.
move him out, which we've had to do before. Before we added the 2 additional cubicles, he did not have a cubicle.
I mean, I wouldn't be opposed to trying that. That's not really that intrusive on anybody's space.
I guess, what would be the need to be back there? Are you gonna be babysitting the staff?
No, I mean,
What's the purpose of being back there where public can't even go?
you can learn a lot more about the city operations when you're in it. It's just like visiting Public Works or doing a police ride-along. You will learn a lot more about how the city works, and you can make decisions that make sense for city staff, more so.
I don't know about you, but I work during the day. I'm not gonna take off time
Yeah,
to
you're not
work to sit in
required-
a cubicle for
Right.
an hour so I can watch what people are doing.
I work during the
It's
day
not
too,
needed.
Dan. We all work, Dan. I mean, I think it's an interesting idea. If one of us wants to spend time here, what's wrong with that? And there's no cost to it, if the
I just
cubicle's
don't
already
see the
there.
need for it.
Okay.
If you really need to educate yourself, ask questions.
George, what do you think?
I think we should just put it on the agenda for a vote.
Okay, and are you thinking rather have a cubicle of some kind, like what Luke's saying, or would you rather have the corner office there with the door going out to the public and then one into City Hall, or?
I would like to take a look at the situation in there and see.
Okay.
Sure.
Maybe we would, maybe just another cubicle.
Well, the
We
one,
have an extra one right now, but
Right.
maybe a whole nother one somewhere else. I have no idea. I'd have to walk around.
Okay. Well, why don't we put that on the agenda, it sounds like, for the 2nd of August, then?
sure.
Give you some time to think about it, and... Okay. The rest of this, do we want to start something new, or we want to maybe go ahead and adjourn for now and resume this meeting after the short planning meeting that we should have coming up here?
I'd vote to do that,
Okay,
re-adjourn, or restart after the reconvene, there's the word.
If we have time.
If we have time, correct?
okay. So I guess I would look for a motion then to recess this meeting and reconvene after the planning meeting.
Motion to recess and reconvene.
Second.
I have a motion from Councilman Merrill and a second from Councilman Heeman. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Motion carries 5-0.